Okay, so for this lesson here, we are going to talk about two things. The first thing that we're going to talk about is exponents other than 2 or 3. And then the second thing we're going to talk about today is order of operations. Okay, we are going to be in Springboard, and we are going to be at activity 3.1, which starts on page number 41. So go ahead and get yourself set up. The other thing that you're going to need is we are going to be using Desmos, the calculator on the Chromebook. So on your desk right now, you should have a couple things. You should have a Chromebook with Desmos pulled up. You should have your composition book, and you should have your Springboard open to page 41. All right, great. So let's get started. On page 41, it says, example A, simplify 2 4/10 to the power of 5. I'm going to show you how to do this, but in your notes, I want you to go ahead and under the same LEQ, you're going to write our new vocabulary word, which is exponents. Okay, and so then this year you're going to give an example. And your example is 2 4/10 to the power of 5. I want to point out this is that number written in what we call exponential form. Because it is the base with the exponent. I could write this in what I consider expanded form. And in expanded form, I take my condensed numbers right there and I go ahead and I expand them. So if I have 2 4/10 to the 5th power, that means I'm going to take my 2 4/10 and multiply it by itself 5 times. Just to be clear, these little dots here are the same as the symbol for multiplication. One, two, three, 4, 5. So once again, I'm going to go ahead and highlight that. Once again, my power of 5, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. So then I can write this one other way. I have exponential form, I have expanded form. Now I can go ahead and I can write this in what we call standard form. And in standard form, I simply find the solution or write the number. And you can use a calculator for this, okay? No problem at all. Use a calculator for this. So you get 2.4 times 2.4 times 2.4 times 2.4 times 2.4. Okay, so the other way to think about 2 4/10 to the power of 5 in your calculator is if you did 2 4/10, and then this exponent button right here allows you to input the proper power. So here, notice how regardless of whether you did this through expanded form or exponential form, you still got the same standard number. So your answer on here, your standard number would be 79 and that is your standard form right there. Okay, so that is your standard form. So we have exponential form, we have expanded form, and we have standard form for exponents. So right now I want you to go ahead and I want you to look. This is on page number, let me go back to this right here. This is on page number 41, and I want you to work on The problem's here. If you finish early, go ahead and move on. There's like a whole other part of the box. But right now, go ahead, pause, work with your partner. And I want you to fill in these two boxes right here and then push play and check your answers. All right, so you should have as your answers for that table, your table should look like this. So if you need right now to pause and check, go ahead and do that. If you got something wrong and you have no idea how, ask, okay? Ask one of us and we are happy to help you. And you could use the calculator for this. I just want to make sure you could use the calculator for this. Okay, so now I want to jump ahead to page 42. And on page 42, I just really want to make sure that we got this. So it says evaluate the following expressions. When you evaluate the expressions, you need to, what it's asking for is the number in standard form. Okay, the number in standard form. So you need to know what 2 to the power of 6 is in standard form. Go ahead and try these two problems. Once again, if you finish early, go on. If you finish earlier than your group, go on to 3 and 4, or if you want to challenge, go on to 3 and 4. But, oh wait, don't go on to 3 and 4 because they're different types of, don't do that. Don't do that. Just do 1 and 2 and then check your answers back here. All right, so again, go ahead and pause and do with your partner and then come back and check this. Okay, so go ahead and check your answers right now with my number 1 and my number 2. Great, so now we're going to move into the next part of our lesson. And as I stated before, the first thing we were going to work with is working on exponents other than 2 or 3. We just did that. So 2, that's our special relationship with the square, and 3 is our special relationship with the cube. So now we're going to get into the second part of this, which is the order of operations. So I'm going to jump ahead now, and I actually want to start by taking notes on the order of operations. So you have likely heard the term PEMDAS previously. Go ahead and get this in your notes, knowing that you work from the top to the bottom in the order of operations in PEMDAS. So right now, go ahead and hit pause and get this into your notes if you don't already, get this into your notes. Great, so now that that's in your notes, we're gonna work through an example together. So this is our first example. When I am looking at this, I look for the first thing that is in groups. So it's either grouped in parentheses or sometimes you will see brackets. So the first thing that I see that is groups is I actually see 2 groupings, right there and right there. This grouping has less numbers, so I'm just going to start with it first. When I do 37 minus 27, I get 3. And then I went ahead and everything else that I haven't touched yet, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to rewrite it. So I take all of this and I simply rewrite it exactly how it is and I bring it down. I still have a parentheses. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to work through my other set of parentheses. So I'm going to work through this set of parentheses. Now within that set of parentheses, I notice that I have multiplication, I have division, and I have subtraction. According to my order of operations, division comes first. So the actual first thing that I'm going to do within these parentheses is I'm going to do that piece of division right there, because according to this, I do parentheses, exponents, multiplication and division, and then addition or subtraction. So when I work that out, 16 divided by 2 is 8, right there. And then I just write, or I bring everything else down exactly how it is. And this is still 2 to the power of 4, even if I started to get a little lazy and dropped out my 4. So I'm still in my parentheses, they're still there. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do 10 minus 8, which is 2, but everything else just got brought down exactly how it is. So you'll notice I still have parentheses. However, there is now no operation to do within those parentheses. So now it is just numbers. When it is just numbers in parentheses and there's no operation to do, I can move on to the next part. So my parentheses are done. I'm now going to move on to my exponents. I notice that in this problem, I do have an exponent. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do 2 to the power of 4, which is the same thing as saying 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. So 2 times 2 is 4, 4 times 2 is 8, 8 times 2 is 16. So what I just did was 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. And the answer that I got was 16. Again, I bring everything else down, and because there's no operation in those parentheses, at this point, I drop them. You can leave them, you can drop them. This doesn't change the value of anything, so that would be exactly the same thing. So now, I don't have any other, I did my exponents, they're done. I'm looking at this, I don't have any multiplication or division, so I'm going to move to addition and subtraction. And addition and subtraction and multiplication and division, you start with the left and you go to the right. You could do subtraction and then addition. You could do division and then multiplication. It doesn't matter. You just start at the left and you move to the right. So starting at the left, the first thing I see is 16 minus 2. 16 minus 2 is 14, so I rewrite it. 14 plus 3 is 17. So my final answer right here is 17. Go ahead, if you haven't already, go ahead and get these into your notes. Clear them so they're easier to see. Then once you are ready, I want you to go ahead and I want you to turn to page number 42. And I want you to walk through the example. So talk through the example with your group. Explain what they did and why they did it. Once you have done that, I want you to ask any questions to group, then to teachers that you don't understand. And then I want you to go ahead and I want you to do the try these be. You can work with your group and you can use a calculator. That's okay. You shouldn't need a calculator. You don't need a calculator. So I take that back. So I want you to do no calculator. Okay, so no calculator on this part right here. All right, so go ahead and work through it and then we will check our answers. Hit pause, work through. Okay, so here you can go ahead and you can see my work. I underlined each step that I did as I did it. I want to point out here that there's no like operation. So these parentheses show that that 2 applies to that 5. And then down here, a 4 with parentheses next to it shows that it's multiplication. So that would be 100. But once again, if there is something that you don't understand, please flag us down and ask. Okay, make sure that you ask. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and I want you to do the final check your understanding problem. So this is still on page number 42, and it is the check your understanding. So it's the CYU section. Actually, I want to go ahead. I want to do this one together. So if I look at this, the first thing I need to do is exponents. So 1 to the power of 2 is the same as saying 1 times 1, which is 1. I'm going to bring down my minus 6 and my plus. Now over here, I have negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2. So I have a bunch of negative numbers. Negative 2 times negative 2 is positive 4, times negative 2 is negative 8, times negative 2 is positive 16. So when I write this in, I write it in as plus my positive 16. So now I go ahead and I do my remember my PEMDAS, I did my exponents. So I'm going to do my multiplication to my division. I'm sorry, there is none of that, so I skipped that. I'm going to do my addition to my subtraction straight across. So 1 minus 6 is 5. Bring down my plus 16. 5 plus 6 is 21. So my final answer right there is 21. Guys, I made a mistake. What mistake did I make? When I did 1 minus 6, what should my value be? It should be negative 5. So this is checking your integer rules. So the negative 5 plus 16, that's not 21. That's my mistake. So negative 5 plus 16 should be, so if I'm at negative 5 and I add 16, so it should be negative 11. Oh, man, I did that twice. So it should be positive 11 because I end up going from negative 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That got me to 0. And then I have 9, I have 11 more. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So that lands me right there, right at 16. Great. Okay, so now go ahead through and try the 3-3 practice. Try this one on your own, and then I want you to so pause. I want you to do it on your own. And then once you have that, I want you to check your answers. Okay, see if you got them correct with your answers. All right, so this should be your answer. These should be your answers right here. 400, 5,000, 59,049, and 8. All right, so now if you are finished with all of this, I want you to summarize your notes. Okay, so if you're finished with all of this, go ahead and summarize your notes.